in parallel, and just a little bit about what SRDR is. Again, full white paper on the website, but at a high level, it's this mesh networking algorithm, and the goal for reliability is to keep local graphs, right, of the people side by side, the nodes side by side, and avoid node failure by allowing multiple paths. If a certain node went down, there would be alternative paths to get back and communicate to the network gateway. So they were working on a proof of concept, and the team internally on their path was working on this in Java, because that's what they knew. And they were able to build kind of a network graph that would simulate this 100-device node. It was running very, very slow, but they validated that the algorithm was working. So that was the first step. And then they went to look at it and look at how reliable the graph generation was, and again they simulated that and across devices and utilization to make sure that that was working as well. So it was working, but the problem was it was still very slow. So again, the path then was to utilize parallelization techniques and leverage the multi-core as well as this better algorithm. So we worked with AMD on this, and we brought in their G-series platform that was just a simple 2-core device, but much more powerful than what was out there, and would still meet the requirements to be very low power and mounted various plants around a refinery. And they're working with not only the wireless HART that we were plugging into, but existing wired HART networks. You can see across the the architecture there in a plant, a typical plant. So that's how AMD was involved. We TMT were brought in because we have the SequenceL programming language and technology that unlocks the power of the multi-core processors in an easy way. So that's who I work for. This is not something we invented in the last year and a half as a startup company, and I'd love to say it did, but this was on the backs of giants. This has been worked on for over 20 years with NASA and a couple other government agencies, along with some university research at Texas Tech, to develop this and take it to the state it's at. What SequenceL is, at the highest level, you can think of it as a means to take complex algorithmic code, right, and convert that into massively parallel C++ and OpenCL. The OpenCL part's new. So, the user writes at a higher level. It's a functional language. It's a way we deal with complexity, right? You move up in abstraction a little bit so that we can deal with the added complexity, just like we've done all along in programming, with moving from machine code to assembly to Fortran and C and now object-oriented. Well, this moves up a little higher in abstraction to a functional language, and it lets humans do what they do best, describe the problem, the invention, and let computers, compiler technology in this case, take care of all the low-level details and do it in a way that is also free of race conditions, because the computational laws this is based on are provably race-free. And that's one of the biggest problems in parallel software, is the testing of, once you've broken all this up, making sure it all comes together without race conditions or deadlocks. So that's what it is. And of course, we've got the back end of the compiler here. We've got the IDE front ends in both Eclipse as well as Visual Studio, if you're a Microsoft guy, and they've got the integrated debugger and the interpreter. And then we have the parallelizing compiler that outputs the massively parallel C++ and OpenCL. And then there's a runtime environment that understands the platform, in this case the 2-core G-series, but it could be a 48-core server on the gateway, for example, and it takes all these parallelisms and schedules them across all the available processor resources. Because we output the C++, that was chosen for a couple of reasons. One reason is we can take and integrate that with existing code. So typically people work with us and say, well, I want to speed up an application. It's not an all or nothing rewrite. We just take the piece where it spends most of its time, we pull that out, we rewrite that in SequenceL, we compile it, and now that parallel C++ goes in, and boom, your app looks and feels the same, but it runs super fast. So we've done that with Emerson and a bunch of other people in oil and gas and hearing aid algorithms and databases and things like that. So, it's all automatic. At the level, the user just writes pretty high-level code, and he doesn't worry about execution. All the parallelization is done for him, and it works. So what happened in this test case? The results were right out of the box. The SequenceL code was very fast. It parallelized well, automatically, with no input from the user. Part of our big value prop. And right off the bat, we got a 5x speed up on a 2-core system. So that